All right. Good morning, everybody. How are you? Awesome. So we are so excited to be here today to talk to you a little bit about how Paycor has really begun to move from a really more of a blast, sending emails to literally everybody we can, as many as we can, trying to get as many responses as we can, to really creating more of a human-centric model, more of an evergreen model that's integrating other channels in our campaigns besides email, obviously direct mail being a huge component, and how we're able to use that partnering with PFL, of course. So my name is Gretchen Swann. I'm the Principal Marketing Program Manager at Paycor. So my job is really to be focused on the overall demand gen prospect strategy. And with me today, I also have Chris Saporito, who leads our Marketo automation team. So he's crucial to all the campaigns we're launching and making sure they get into market in the best way possible.
Yeah, we get to build out the cool campaigns that they think of.
Yeah, he does all the real work. So quickly, we're going to talk a little bit about who we are at Paycor, what we do. Then we're going to talk a little bit about creating an evergreen prospect strategy. And then talking through some of the additional strategies and PFL partnerships that Paycor has done. All right, so to talk a little bit about Paycor, we basically are an HCM provider that works with small to medium-sized businesses. So our sweet spot is really in that 40 to 500 employee companies. Every industry across the country. We're not international, so just in the United States, but we really partner with those companies to be able to help them with their HCM and payroll solutions to hopefully help them free up their time to focus on other things they need to at their company. There is a problem kind of in this area because there is no problem of the amount of technology. If you're all familiar with our area, there's so many different pays that we kind of get cycled into. There's the Paycor, there's the Paycom, there's the Paychex, and obviously there's the big ADP as well. And so what it came down to is, from a marketing perspective, we really needed to figure out how can we help ourselves to really stick out in this industry, and how can we really help these people stop focusing on all of the admin tasks they don't want to be focused on, and help them to really be able to focus on where they can make an impact. And so our go-to-market strategy when it comes to working with these HR and payroll managers is really trying to get them to get beyond the status quo and be a partner to them that can really provide that tech plus expertise. So what exactly does that mean for our go-to-market strategy? So I like to believe that we always have been very targeted, have tried to create very specific messaging to very specific targets for our prospects. But the problem was we didn't have kind of a one main thought leadership evergreen strategy that all of our campaigns fell under, which caused us to have very disjointed messages that were going out to the market. So this might look familiar to some of you, but what we would do is we would send lots of different email campaigns out to basically everyone that we could. So one year, the All-Star game was in Cincinnati. We happened to do the payroll for the Cincinnati Reds. So we did an email campaign around the All-Star game and how complicated a baseball paycheck can look like. The next week, we did an email about how difficult it is being an HR provider in the healthcare industry. The next week, we focused around DOL compliance and some of the issues that people might be facing running into that. The next week, it's a new year. Lots of opportunities to be thinking about new things. Let's talk about that. The next week, talking about kind of more thought leadership topics, 8 things HR leaders should be thinking about today. Talking about employee size, so having emails go out but talk a little bit more to that really small business versus the middle-sized business. We also attempted to do some direct mail programs before we partnered with PFL. Very complicated, we'll get more into that later, but it was a very disjointed experience from the other messages we had going to the market. And then of course, we're also doing our digital retargeting. These ads will be going out the same time as all of these emails and direct mail pieces. So as you can see, we're talking about compliance, we're talking about getting a buyer's guide to kind of pick the best HR CM provider, along with having ads on more thought leadership topics. So again, these were all campaigns that we had going out to the market around the same time. As you can kind of look at these, sure, they're topics that are hopefully interesting to these specific markets, but they weren't connected in any way. They were very disjointed. And so what we realized was that we really needed more of a top-of-funnel thought leadership strategy that was consistent and really spoke to the pain points that our prospects were facing. So what that means is where we came to was basically creating this basically this thought leadership model that we were able to bucket all of the content that we were sending out to our prospects. Again, from a go-to-market strategy, our goal is to really provide this thought leadership material. That's how we get our foot in the door with the prospects, to be able to show how partnering with Paycor will help them be able to focus on things they really need to be focusing on. So basically what the HR Center of Excellence is research that we have done with all of our client data, in addition to working with third parties like SHRM, to really identify what are the 6 key areas that HR professionals need to focus on to ensure that their company is truly successful, and kind of just figuring out how you can be kind of mediocre all the way to the best when it comes to those buckets. So those 6 buckets are probably, sound pretty familiar to some of you: recruiting, benefits, labor costs, people management, compliance, and employee experience. So what we were able to do is really be able to bucket all of the material that we were sending out to our prospects into one of these 6 buckets. And as we worked very closely with our content team, we were actually able to develop content that kind of helped walk people through these 3 different phases when it came to these buckets. So basically assessing where they're at, so being able to look and see, okay, where am I when it comes to recruiting? What are we currently doing? Where can I improve? Optimize, so thinking about, again, how you can optimize that process. And then finally, excel, so really getting to that point where you feel like you really have built this HR Center of Excellence, where you're doing everything you can when it comes to that area. So the main thing we had to do, and this was not an easy process, it did take about a year for us to build out all of the content that I'm about to show, but we basically built out some key content that really explained the HR Center of Excellence story to help people understand what we were trying to do and how we were able to help them create this sort of model. So the first is the actual white paper that is Unlock the True Power of HR, which kind of talks about the philosophy of the HR Center of Excellence. We also created benchmark quizzes for all the various pillars. So we work with SnapApp. I'm not sure if any of you work with SnapApp as well, but it's a great interactive tool where we're able to put these quizzes on our websites. People are able to answer the quizzes, kind of see where they fall in that maturity model for their various areas. And then all the questions and answers feed back into Salesforce. So our SDRs and our sales reps are able to use that information when following up with the prospect. We created another white paper, how to build an ideal HR team. So again, this is going back to what sort of team would be really helpful to help you excel in these various areas. Again, this does talk about limited resources because we are not dealing with huge companies here. We're dealing with very small companies, and we're wanting to make them feel empowered to say just because you only have 50 employees, that doesn't mean that you can't have a kick-ass HR team. And then finally, is achieving HR excellence, how Paycor can help. So this is more of our bottom of the funnel piece, where after we've kind of sold people on the model of the HR Center of Excellence, making them feel comfortable about the various pillars, making them understand where they fit, where they can improve, really showing how Paycor can help with that, and how our various products are able to help in all 6 of those buckets to really get to that excellence level. So when it comes to our sort of go-to-market strategy for this, so basically what we did was we shifted from what I was talking about at the very beginning, where it was literally like every week, what email are we going to send out? We need this many responses. Let's target this, group this week, this group next. We were able to get away from that and really create this more evergreen, always-on model that would really introduce net new prospects. So when we had net new prospects enter the database, whether it was from event lists, lists that we partnered with Lead Genius on getting on, people that come through from our digital strategies, however they came into the database, we were able to introduce them to the concept of the HR Center of Excellence and then be able to help identify through their actions where they actually were interested in learning more. So the first thing that a new prospect is going to get in our database is this email drip that really introduces the HR C-Suite concept. So all the call to actions within this email are basically the items I just talked about. So it's introducing the kind of main white paper, it's introducing the quizzes, it's showing how to actually build a team that can support this model, and then finally ending on how Paycor can help. Once they make it through this 4-email drip series, we actually start putting them into a newsletter. So this is what the newsletter looks like. And really what's awesome here is that while it seems like this is a lot of content and a lot of work, and some people might be thinking like, oh my gosh, I don't know if my content marketing team could really even handle creating this much, We have actually in some ways been able to create less specifically for email, shifting to this model. And what I mean by that is that basically we've been able to start bucketing any content we create into one of these 6 buckets. And every 2 weeks, what we're doing is we're sending out this newsletter that has one piece of content from each bucket. Now, we're not asking the content team to create new stuff every 2 weeks. We're basically just being able to select, what's being used. We're able to recycle things from 6 months ago. If there was an SEO request that our digital team put in, we can use that. So it's really just showcasing a different piece of content from each part of the pillar with the main goal of being able to identify what that prospect's interested in. So are they interested in recruiting? Are they interested in people management? That's what the goal of the newsletter is really just to be able to identify what they're interested in. Then, once they actually engage with the newsletter and actually do one of those call to actions, we drop them into a very specific email nurture stream that speaks to that. So if they read an article on employee experience, we're going to actually take them out of that biweekly newsletter for 6 weeks and start delivering them a stream of content that is very specific to employee experience, since they have indicated that's what they're interested in learning more about.
On that topic too, like going from very batch and blast email strategy to a newsletter that's going out bi-weekly, we were exhausting our email database quite a bit, and you could tell that our engagement with those emails were going down. So this model actually started to send them less email, and we started to see great results from those emails that we were exhausting before, just by sending them less and more relevant information to what they were engaging with too.
Awesome, cool. So then after that, so again, it's kind of a multi-step process here. So once they've engaged with the newsletter and once they've gone ahead and entered one of these more specific streams for one of the pillars, we start to integrate retargeting. So this is where I'm partnering really closely with our digital marketing team. We work with AdRoll. And so we're dropping these people into low intent lists, so basically indicating that they have not necessarily shown high intent, but they have shown an interest in one of these topics for HR Center of Excellence. So we're going to start retargeting them with very similar ads they're seeing outside in addition to inside the inbox. And so what we've started to do is, as they are in these different pillar streams, starting to retarget them with the how to build the ideal HR team guide. So again, this is more of our middle of the funnel piece. So this is the piece that's kind of showing you how to build an HR Center of Excellence. It's not quite down to the bottom of the funnel where we're talking about how Paycor can help, but it's really trying just to deliver the HR Center of Excellence story in multiple different channels. And then finally, after that, is when the fun stuff starts. So this is when the direct mail starts. So we've done a few different campaigns with PFL, obviously, already, and we're going to talk more about that here at the end as well. But this was the first time that I feel like we really were able to integrate direct mail as a strategic channel into this more evergreen, always-on sort of strategy. So super excited about this. What we basically do is anytime one of our prospects enter one of these pillar streams, we are sending out the Achieving HR Excellence. So again, this is more of our bottom of the funnel, really tying it back to Paycor. Piece of content. This is about a 20-piece guide that's going out to them via direct mail, along with a print-on-demand note that is customized, just using their first name, trying to add that little extra custom piece, and talking a little bit about how there's never been a better time to be in HR, a little bit more around the HR COE story, and we would really love to talk to you and learn more about how we can help. And as a thank you for doing that, we are going to send you a bottle of wine that will work great with the wine key that we also sent you with this package. So basically the package that's going out includes the wine key that you see here with the Paycor brand, is the print-on-demand note, and then the Achieving HR Excellence white paper. That automatically triggers, so it's an always-on campaign. It's not something we're revisiting every week. It automatically triggers to anyone who enters one of the nurture streams. And then once the reps actually get the appointments and mark that out in Salesforce as being closed, the bottle of wine with a thank you note for meeting is going to automatically ship. So it's all 100% automated through the integration that we have with PFL, Salesforce, and Marketo. So I know a lot of you already are PFL clients, so I'm probably preaching to the choir a little bit when I say this, but I will say that when it comes to doing direct mail at scale, like we've started to do at Paycor, the importance of automation is just absolutely crucial. So again, if you've tried to do direct mail without partnering with a great partner like PFL, this list probably looks familiar to you, but we have tried to do direct mail just kind of as our own here at Paycor. And in order to do that, we had to do a lot of different steps. We had to work with our internal Marcom team on the concept and content. We had to work with a vendor to get whatever sort of swag or content item we were sending. We had to work with a different vendor to actually print those materials. We had to work with another vendor to order the boxes and shipping materials. We had to work with the reps to actually figure out who the heck this list of people was going to come from that we were going to send the direct mail piece to. We had to work with another vendor to kit and ship the materials. We had to get all the tracking back in an Excel sheet, which we had to manually look at. We had to add prospects to campaign for follow-up by sales. We had to pull reports weekly to see if any appointments were scheduled. And then we had to actually send the bottle of wines manually to anyone who had the appointment. So we did actually try to do this exact same campaign ourselves a couple of years ago, but it was just too much. I mean, this was way too much to manage on top of all the different things that we were doing as a marketing team. Now, after partnering with PFL on this exact same campaign, we have great partners here who are actually able to provide strategic direction of what these campaigns should look like. So we're able to say, this is the sort of thing we're trying to accomplish, and they'll come back to us with various ideas. It was a 100% coincidence that one of the ideas that PFL had was something we had done before, but if for some reason we wanted to try something different, PFL would have suggested those ideas for us. So they're a great strategic partner to help accomplish the sort of goals that we're trying to accomplish with the campaign. Everything obviously is coming through on Salesforce from an MQL perspective, so there's no manual Excel sheets. Reps or SDRs are automatically being triggered these MQLs as soon as the package is marked as delivered, and so we're really ensuring that timely follow-up. We send automatic emails, so again, as soon as we have marked that the package was delivered, we are automatically triggering an email through Marketo to basically say to the prospect, hi, you have something from us, make sure you don't miss it, and so that's automatically going through Marketo as well. And then finally, as I mentioned, we're actually able to automatically trigger that second bottle of wine. So instead of having to manually go back, see what appointments were scheduled, and then try to ship that wine ourselves, that's all automatically happening on the back-end integration. And then finally, the most important thing is the results. So we actually have dashboards for all these campaigns where we're able to see how many of the mailers have gone out, how many appointments have been scheduled, how many have been completed, how many bottles of wine have shipped, pipeline, and then the actual bookings that came in from the campaign. So really long story short, as many of you probably know, automation is truly key when it comes to doing a measurable strategic direct mail campaign. Okay, so let's talk about the cool stuff. So these are the results that we've seen once we've kind of shifted from this more blast and blast approach to this more strategic, evergreen, always-on sort of campaign. So as Chris already hinted at a little bit, the email results have been through the roof. So when we look at these nurture campaigns versus the kind of like one-off sends that we were doing every week before, we've seen a 24% increase in open rate. We've seen a 63% increase in click rate, 23% increase in click-through rate. This stat seems crazy, but you guys have to remember that before we were emailing pretty much everybody the same thing, but now we're literally emailing something that they have indicated they're interested in. So because of that, we've seen almost a 19,000% increase in response rate. Because again, they're actually we're sending them stuff they're interested in, and so they're actually really quick to take that call to action. We've seen a 78% conversion rate, and so what we say when we talk about conversion, what we're talking about is the person has actually responded and then agreed to meet with us for a first-time appointment. And then a 40% increase in the amount of bookings that are coming in from the email channel. From a paid digital perspective, again, what I'm comparing here is our low intent retargeting groups. So we have a group of people that have basically come to Paycor.com in the past, have not filled out a form, and we're trying to retarget them with more Paycor branded materials. Well, we have the people that are part of these nurtures that are getting the HRC content, and we're trying to retarget them with additional HRC content. So when we're comparing these two groups, we actually saw a 47% decrease in CPM with the HRC group. So basically more people are seeing these ads for less money, which is always a good thing. And then we're also seeing a 51% increase in view-through conversions. And so we're having more people visiting Paycor.com after seeing these ads. So having that more consistent message of being able to deliver people the content they're interested in and outside of the inbox is definitely proven. The results are working there as well. And then finally, from a direct mail perspective, our conversion goal going into this campaign was 5 to 10%. Obviously, it's always ongoing. It's still going right now. There's probably mailers going out as we speak. But right now, we're seeing a 13% conversion. So for all of these direct mail pieces that are going out, 13% are agreeing to a first-time appointment with us. And so far, we've seen a 5 times ROI. But I think one of the even more exciting things about this is that all the positive feedback we're getting from sales. So we partner really closely with both an internal sales team called the SDRs, which is similar to BDRs. It's an internal team that follows up on all of our MQLs, and then also our field reps. And we're just getting all kinds of great feedback from them on these sorts of campaigns because it really gives them a great, easy talk track for that follow-up. And so we have a direct quote here from one of our sellers, excellent marketing program to open more doors. This campaign has contributed a significant amount of energy and positivity to the team and their prospecting efforts. So I think the positivity and just kind of building that really good relationship with sales has been a huge part of what direct mail has helped us do here at Paycor. All right, so in summary, how do you really go from moving from that blast the batch to evergreen approach? Again, it is possible. It takes a little bit of time and effort, but you are able to do it. So really having that content framework. So again, every company, every industry can be a little bit different. From our perspective, we took the thought leadership, pain points, what people are feeling for those 6 different buckets, and began to just bucket all of our content under those. But really just having that framework is really the first thing you need to do. So you're able to start to begin to integrate that more newsletter approach versus trying to send all these kind of different messages out every week, every other week, whatever it might be. Triggering off behavior. So again, it's great to be able to send messaging that's very specific to a specific industry. Obviously, hopefully they're going to react to that. But what we found is even as we do other messaging around specific pain points a competitor might be bringing that prospect or what somebody might be facing in the manufacturing industry, we're still continuing to see that the better results are from the campaigns that are triggering off behavior. So when people are actually indicating what they're interested in and we're continuing to provide more content on that, that's where we're seeing the true results. And so what's great about this is, again, it allows you to be always on. The campaigns are always on. You're able to continue to measure results and optimize, but it's not figuring out what's happening next week or next month. It's always on. Let's just figure out how to improve. Consistent messaging, so again, integrating across channels, so making sure you're integrating across many channels as you work within. In our case, it's been mostly email, direct mail, and digital retargeting. And then finally, as I mentioned, just testing, reviewing, and optimizing. So it's a never-ending loop. So making sure that you're continually going back, optimizing the nurtures, making sure that new content is continuing to feed into it, so we can continue to feed that out to our prospects as we continue to try to warm them up and really get them to agree to meet with us to learn how Paycor can help. But I think the most important thing is just remembering the customer. So again, going back to, as marketers, we can make some sort of conclusions about what we think people care about, and maybe they do care about it, but missing the signals of what they're telling us they care about is just a huge miss. So being able to be very targeted in what we are sending to them based on what they're telling us they want to hear about is a huge opportunity when it comes to creating our marketing campaigns. So that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Chris, who is actually going to talk about some of our other customer-centric campaigns that we partnered with PFL on.
Thank you. All right, so this is the cool part where I get to geek out a little bit. So like I said earlier, I help Gretchen's team build out the campaigns that they come up with. So what we'll do is we'll walk through some of the different campaigns that we're running with PFL currently and kind of talk about the purpose of those and how we're actually triggering those based on behavior or based on what that purpose is. So this is one that kind of going back to what Andrew was saying yesterday of having the holistic marketing approach and really listening to that person and sending a direct mail piece that actually, that they can associate with. This is a little different approach, but this is actually something that the purpose was to drive engagement and activity from our sales team. So it's more of a batch and blast type of mailer, but the purpose is actually to help our sales team get in the door, basically, to give them direct follow-up based on mailers being delivered to specific prospects. And this has really helped with our rookie sellers, so the sellers who have been there less than a year, to just help them, really get associated with Paycor while they're getting up to speed, kind of put these breadcrumbs out there for them to really have direct follow-up with. Gretchen, do you want to talk through the results?
Sure.
a little on the outside of that, but
Absolutely, yeah. So in addition to this being, again, adjusting to being focused more on the rookies, we also have each time we do launch one of these campaigns being focused on a key vertical. So this does go back to, this is not, in my mind, the most strategic marketing approach, but it is a seller enablement play. So this really is helping for our new sellers to get more familiar with our key verticals. It's helping from a recruiting and a retention standpoint, making them feel supported as they become new sellers at Paycor. So we have seen good results. I mean, we're sending a lot of these packages out. Anyone who was on the tour yesterday with me and Chris were probably getting annoyed because we were getting so excited every time we saw an orange box, because that's what this campaign is. But so far, these results were actually pulled a couple months ago, so they're probably higher now. But we've sent 58,000 packages. We've gotten 3,800 appointments from these, with 25 million in open pipeline and 1.5 million in bookings. And so again, this is, we're sending a lot of these out. The goal, we're spending a lot on it too, obviously, but the goal of this, not only from an ROI standpoint, is to really help from recruiting and retention when it comes to our new sellers as they begin at Paycor. Yeah.
What's the time frame that you sent all of that out?
Yep. So we send, the campaigns typically go over 8 weeks. And so what we're looking at here, we were probably sending about 90 packages per seller, 200 sellers. We're probably looking at about 3 or 4 campaigns here. And so the reps have 15 contacts to follow up on each week. And this is the only time that the follow-up is happening directly, but from our field sellers. So typically the MQLs are going to go to our SDR team for follow-up. But in this case, this is supposed to be directly supporting the sellers in the field, kind of gravy on top of everything else they're getting from marketing.
And it's a very prescriptive follow-up process too. So we're sending out follow-up automated emails that just says, hey, you got a package, and then the sales team's being notified right away, hey, you need to follow up with this person, and just get that opening conversation. So a cool one that we worked on. All right, next up we've got client targeting. So we've got kind of 3 channels, or 3 main buckets that we're actually targeting at Paycor. So we've got our clients, we've got our prospects, and then we've got partners too. So each person on our marketing team kind of has the free reins to build out separate campaigns, all using PFL and all using different approaches and strategies. So this was a cool one that we did with our clients targeting a specific group to upsell a specific product. So this one we did some more of like a relaxation kit with the bath salts and the eye mask, but just a cool one that we did on our client upsell side to drive product upsell.
Kind of similar to what Jen was talking about yesterday. This is going out to any of our prospects, or any of our clients, that we've identified as being a good opportunity for our benefits product. So this is more timely. So this is talking about the pains of open enrollment. It's been such a hard time. It's kind of hitting them up right after they've gone through that process. Like, you need some time to relax. And hey, next year, why don't you not worry about that and let Paycor help? So again, this kind of goes into the timeliness of some of the things that our clients might be facing depending on the time of year.
All right, next up we got prospects and sales process. So this is probably one of the more strategic ones, I think, and we talked about yesterday, or Andrew had mentioned, what's the purpose of your mailer? And this one we had specifically to drive conversion from certain stages within our funnel. And we actually did a couple different tests based on movement from stage 2 to 3 or 5 to 6 to see where this actually fit the best, and then how to really optimize that once we actually figured out which stage we wanted to improve, and then how to improve it a little bit better. But this one was a rocket pad, which is a cool one that actually PFL introduced us to a little while back that I've still got on my desk. But just a cool campaign to actually send throughout the funnel. And it's all based on fields that are actually being used and updated in Salesforce. So if your sales team is following up through an opportunity process, we're basically just keying off of that data being entered, and the sales rep just doing their job and sending mailers based on all that data passing through to Marketo, and then just making it kind of that holistic approach of, we know who they are, what they're doing, and then making sure it just all flows smoothly throughout that process.
Yeah. And this is a shift where we go a little bit away from the HR Center of Excellence story and do go more to the Paycor branding. This is, again, in funnel, so they've already agreed to an appointment or a meeting with us. And it's really going off of our technology plus expertise story. So providing the piece of content through the Paycor's buyer's guide of how to select an HCM solution, and then providing this really cool piece of technology that's also branded with the Paycor label to be able to kind of continue that story during the in-funnel acceleration.
All right, so I'd mentioned that we have partners that we partner with. So we've got banks, brokers, and CPAs, and we have different owners of those channels too. So they get the pleasure of coming up with these different campaigns as well. And some of them were kind of restricted on like the types of gifts that you can send or types of content that we can send them. So this was one that we did on the broker side, where we had sent them a cool little puzzle with the Paycor branding, a note, and some content where it's basically getting in front of those partners again, building that relationship, showing them that, hey, we're thinking about you guys, and just helping drive those referrals that we want from those partners. So this one, like I said, was a puzzle, just something a little different to get them, again, to show them that, hey, we're thinking about you guys. And then it's a perfect opportunity for our reps to go into those offices and just have a conversation with the person getting these, or even the manager of those different branches or partners.
Yep, and this campaign launched, I think, a couple of weeks ago, not too long ago, so these kind of results are still going to be TBD, but we've shipped about 600 of these kits, again, going to our brokerages around benefit strategy, but in the first couple of weeks, we already got 9 FTAs and $30,000 closed, so feeling good about those early results.
Yep, like Jen mentioned yesterday, we've got a 90-day window that we look at in terms of relating the attribution model back to campaigns. So next up, this is probably one of my favorite ones other than the wine mailer. So this is one that we did for brokers as well. So brokers that are giving us referrals, we want to show the appreciation, and we have certain tiers that we give those brokers based on how much business they're driving for us and how much engagement we're having with all the content that we're sending them to. So once a broker actually gets to a specific stage of, or one of the higher tiers, we're going to send them this celebration kit, which is a couple of champagne glasses, a note. I think there's some candy in there that just says, hey, we appreciate your partnership. Thanks for helping our business and being a partner of ours too. And the idea of it is that the sales reps are notified as soon as this actually gets delivered. And at that time, we actually send the sales rep a bottle of champagne so that they can go in person, drop that champagne off, have a conversation, and celebrate with not only the specific broker that went from tier to tier, but the entire group at that broker. So this one was recently launched, so we're still waiting on the results there, but this is a really cool one that we got to partner with PFL on. Bank, so this is a cool one too. We've got a local bank, Fifth Third Bank in Cincinnati, that we've been partners with for 25 years. So I actually saw these in the tour yesterday, but we've got the old school viewfinders. And what we did was, hey, we looked back 25 years ago, what's something cool, nostalgic that we can send them to just, again, thank them for their partnership, celebrate the 25 years together, and make a little Paycor branded with Fifth Third Bank. So this was another cool one, and you got the results there, 300 plus appointments, again, them driving business for us, and 247K in bookings and pipeline, and a 5 times ROI, which for that channel is pretty good for us.
Yeah, Banks interesting because, as Chris said, we can't really give them things of value, so it can't come off as if we're trying to, get business from them. So doing things like this is just kind of fun. It's kind of like a fun little nostalgic thing. It's, not that valuable per se from a dollar standpoint, but it kind of helps get that conversation going and goes along with the messaging of the campaign.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So in conclusion, it's all about that holistic marketing approach. And Andrew talked about this yesterday of really understanding your prospects, who they are, what they do, what resonates with them. And through this HRCW process, we've been able to really tie it all together. And we had a very choppy approach before where we knew exactly how many campaigns we had to get out to reach our goals of what we called marketing math, and backing into, we knew, how many of those were going to be open, how many were going to be clicked, how many FTAs we needed to get how many bookings ultimately from it. So to move from that approach to a more strategic approach has been really, really great for us. And to see the results are awesome. And it's been good. Gretchen, I'll let you close it out.
Yeah, so that is pretty much what we had for you guys. Was there any questions either around any of the specific campaigns we're doing with PFL or the general concept of moving to more evergreen? Yeah.
Did your other campaigns have email that went with them as well? Or was it just direct mail?
I think most of them had email. I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, it really depends on the program, but all of them have some sort of cadence within them, whether it's emails that don't necessarily notate the actual package being sent to them, but more of like having that cohesive marketing approach to it, where we'll have a couple email campaigns that just kind of warm them up and get our name basically in front of them, and then we'll have some that go out afterwards too. But it all really depends on the campaign, but we do have like multi touches throughout each of them.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to mention, maybe we can talk more about it later at happy hour, but I know yesterday it came up that some people are using outreach to send triggered emails after mailers are arrived too. We also have outreach. Our SDR team uses that, but I have not yet done that strategy. We have typically sent any automatic follow-up email through Marketo. So to answer your question, like, yes, I think anytime we send a mailer, we send some sort of email just to kind of make sure that they see it, kind of making sure that they're aware of it. And then the MQL will go to our SDR team who, do their cadences through outreach, but we don't typically use outreach for follow-up for these sort of campaigns, if that makes sense. It's all through Marketo. Yep.
You mentioned when a prospect kind of enters that topic nurture is
Yeah.
when they get sent the direct mail campaign. So do you ask for mailing addresses, or is that information like appended from somewhere else?
Yeah, great question. So it's information that we have in the database, typically more times than not. We do partner with a couple different companies. So we work with Zoom Info, which basically is a company that automatically appends information as we're getting it in the system. So I want to say maybe 70% of the time they're able to provide that accurate mailing address for us. But we also partner with Lead Genius, who I think PFL also works with as well. And they are a company that are able to append those addresses for you as well. We use them a lot for seller enablement since we're sending so many packages through that campaign. Lead Genius is literally going through and checking all those addresses before we send it. And because of that, we've had like a crazy percentage deliverability rate. Like we're sending like 18,000 packages every 2 months, and we have 97% deliverability working with Lead Genius. So that's huge. And I definitely recommend it because the amount of money that you can lose from return mailers, it's worth that extra investment to make sure the data is right.
And it seemed like you were mailing early on. That's what I was wondering. Okay.
Yep, great question. Thank you. Yeah.
How do you handle people interacting with more than one of your 6 buckets in the newsletter? Like, how do you decide which interest to enter?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the central? Yep.
Yeah, so what we do, and this is an approach we put in after we started creating quite a few different nurtures based on who they are, how they're engaging with us, what they're interested in. And what we did is actually consolidated the way that everyone gets dropped into a nurture by putting it in, this is all on the Marketo side of through one campaign, which allows you to prioritize which nurture they get dropped in based on that engagement. So if they do multiple things, basically the highest prioritized topic is what they're going to get dropped into.
Yep. And then once they make it through, like each of those nurtures are only 5 or 6 emails, so they can make it through there and potentially not get an appointment. And so at that point, they would be delivered back into the newsletter. And then if they were to engage with another pillar topic, they could qualify for that pillar nurture afterwards.
When you say prioritize topic, is that due to your sales goals? Is that an internal prioritization that you're putting on it?
It's internal prioritization. So we basically looked at some of the results that we've seen for the various pillars. We also have some more higher intent nurtures. So it's what I refer to as payroll plus, because it basically goes through more of all of our products. And so, for example, that's going to actually be a higher in priority than the pillars, because what's going to happen is people that come in from like contact sales, view a demo, are going to be put directly into that product nurture versus the more top of funnel. And so it's really based on the results that we've kind of seen from the nurtures, and we're always massaging it and changing it based on the results we're seeing. Yeah.
I'm sorry, just another quick question.
Yeah.
So, yesterday, one of the speakers talked about assigning like an ROI and how they do that with the ABM model and the 120-day look back. Can you talk a little bit about how you guys are doing that?
Yep.
And then as a follow-on, are you guys sharing your slides?
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. More than happy to share slides. I'm not sure how we're officially doing it, but happy to share them, yes. But yes, we do definitely do that. So we use a attribution model called Magic Robot, which is very similar to Visible. It's multi-attribution. And so basically every campaign or channel that touches a prospect before they agree to that appointment is going to get a certain amount of credit. So say somebody goes to a webinar and then they engage with an email and then they get a direct mail. That FTA, first time appointment, will get split into thirds across those 3 different campaigns. And then if the deal closes, the bookings will get split across that. And so we definitely do have very specific bookings and numbers that are tied to all of these campaigns that we have dashboards visibility into, and it is off of that multi-touch. So we're not, elevating, saying like, direct mail is bringing in $1 million when technically it's being touched by all these different channels. We actually split it to make sure we're getting a clear picture of the actual ROI on the investment that we put into the campaign.
Yeah, and each of those is based on what we call a response, or in Salesforce is considered a response, and each response has a 90-day window to accumulate that attribution. So as soon as our mailers are delivered, we're basically giving them a response in that campaign, and that's when that 90-day countdown starts.
What do you guys do with when leads exhaust without interacting with content from your nurture? How do you go about recycling or getting them back up? Do you have a prayer for that?
Chris asks me this question a lot. So that's somewhere where I think we have an area of opportunity. We don't have a great recycled nurture. What we're doing right now is they're getting put back into the newsletter. And so they'll basically continue to get that newsletter, and we have a cadence of they get the newsletter 1 week, and then we have a very robust webinar program. We do about 3 to 4 webinars a week, and so they get that webinar invite the next week, and so they'll kind of continue to stay in that cadence. We do have a job in place that if somebody were to respond to no emails for 6 months, we bump them from Marketo, but we don't have a great recycle strategy. So again, that's another topic that if people want to discuss over happy hour, I would love to hear more about it, because Chris has been bugging me for years that we need to figure out how to handle those people better. Yes.
I was curious, how many folks are in your typical buying center of clients, and then how do you try to get account coverage within them rapidly?
So from a prospect perspective, so when we look at the amount of marketable people that we have in Marketo, we're at, I want to say like 320,000. Does that sound right?
Give or take, I think we're like 350
Okay.
of just what we consider marketable in terms of they haven't unsubscribed, we have valid information, and then like Gretchen was talking earlier, we have all that data typically appended by Zoom Info to get as much additional information as we can, and we consider those our marketable database.
Within like each client, like do you target 4 people, 5 people?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And then how do you get coverage there?
Totally understand what you're saying. Yep. So from a client perspective, I unfortunately am not super familiar with the client world, but I'm pretty sure from a client perspective, they only target 1 person per account. Does that sound right-ish?
I think it's just however many people are available on the account. So in terms of our client, as in one of our clients, we typically only go after like the people who are doing the administration work or that we've marked or the sales rep has marked as a primary or secondary contact. But there can be multiple. It's all dependent on how big the client is, how many people are actually involved with basically all of our technology.
But from a prospect perspective, I can tell you, so for the wine mailer that I talked a little bit about during the HRC Lee story, we allow 2 people from each account to qualify. So typically who our targets are going to be the HR manager and then potentially the CFO. In the very small companies, it might be the CEO. But for the wine mailer that we have going out, we allow an HR and finance person to potentially qualify. Again, they would have to kind of qualify by engaging with content. And then to just add some extra detail to it, we actually do have different content we send to depending on persona. So for that mailer, we have a specific finance piece that's going to go instead of the more general HR piece to try to make it a little bit more customized to the persona we're sending to, since a finance person may not really care about creating an HR center of excellence, if that makes sense. So, any other questions? Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Like I said, some great dialogue. I would love to chat more later during lunch, happy hour, and everything. Really appreciate the time, and looking forward to hearing from more of you later. Thank you.